story in my collection, and the story's called Brian McMurphy and Sally 2. And I'll just give you a bit of background because I'm going to read from the middle, and I'm only going to read for a short bit. So yeah, Brian and McMurphy are two artists that live in a loft in Montreal, and they run a kind of life drawing classes in this loft, and it's a whole really cool setup. Brian is gay and McMurphy is straight, and they have this, they're a bit like Gilbert and George, and one day this very attractive but completely irritating girl turns up, who ends up as one of their life models and ends up getting off with McMurphy? Yeah. I can't remember my own story. I did write them a long time ago. And she ends up moving into the loft, and she completely upsets the whole pleasant little Gilbert and George equilibrium that they've got. And Brian can't bear Sally. So that's the background to this. And Sally is this just completely annoying girl. She's based on various people, but I'm not going to tell you. It was no surprise to Brian that Sally turned out to be willfully undomestic. More like a boy in the way she scattered her dirty underwear, her ashtrays, her vampire and alien magazines, and her greasy Chinese takeout cartons throughout the loft. She had no regard for other people's things, blithely wearing whatever clothes were lying around, and helping herself and her terrapin, she's got a terrapin by the way, to whatever took her fancy in the fridge. Brian was riled by the death metal CDs she played at full tilt on his stereo, and he hated the sight of Renee, that's the terrapin, squinting blearily at him through his glass box. Her contraceptive pills and lady chic razors littered the bathroom, her used Tampax blocked up the toilet, and her hair got stuck to the soap. Girls' ablutions were so public, their excretions seemed to ooze and make far more mess than men's, Brian found. And for someone so small, Sally's presence filled whatever room she was in. She was utterly confident in all her views, made them known in her deep, booming voice, and laughed with her head thrown back so you could see the back of her throat. All her gestures swung with energy, and she was interested in everything and everyone, hungry for information and experience. She quizzed Brian and McMurphy in detail about their backgrounds and told them all about hers. She had run away from home 4 times, trying to escape from her insane alcoholic mother. At 14, she was seduced by her best friend's father, who continued an affair with her, whilst his wife took their daughter to gymnastics. At 15, she fell pregnant and had an abortion. At 16, she screwed her way through a biker gang before settling on a Hells Angel named Melvin, who took her on a motorcycle trip to Vancouver. They split up somewhere along the Trans-Canada Highway, and she hitchhiked all the way home. After 2 years making cardboard boxes in a cardboard box-making factory, she was convinced there had to be more to life, and set out alone for Montreal to find it. McMurphy, that's her boyfriend, listened to these hijinks with loving admiration. God, what a woman! What a force of nature! Brian found Sally's stories exhausting. He was affronted by her vigour. It made him feel sickly and ill-designed. She slept soundly and ate heartily. Her bowel movements were regular. She had no allergies, and she never got spots or hangovers, even after downing a bottle of vodka. When they all ate bad shrimps in Chinatown, she was the only one who didn't get sick, and she barely noticed when she cut herself with a penknife trying to open a can of smoked clams for Renee. She emerged unscathed from taking liberties with her appearance that other girls wouldn't dare, piercing her eyebrow with a sewing needle, dyeing her hair cerise, getting a tattoo of a pig on a skateboard on her left arm. The effect of Sally's arrival rippled far and wide. Coming in one day after a half hour of escapism in the chocolatier round the corner, Brian was accosted by the Haitian guy who owned the clothes shop on the ground floor. Vous avez une fille chez vous maintenant, oui? Oui. Lucky guys, eh? Vous la partagez? Brian had to make clear that no, he and McMurphy did not share Sally, but yes, she was a fine piece of work. But, as they were constantly reminded, Sally was not just a pretty face. "I'm totally obsessed with the life of the mind. I want the mind," she said. With this aim, she went to every vernissage, book launch and first night that she heard about. McMurphy gave her the run of his art materials, and she spent hours creating faux naive pictures of the mess on the coffee table or René in his tank. As well as painting René, she also wrote poetry, mildly amusing doggerel, which she declaimed to anyone who would listen. One afternoon, she breezed in with a flyer for a poetry slam at Blizzard's on Saint Laurent. "If you're a poet and you know it, get your ass down here and show it." "Hey, that's me. I'm getting my ass down there. The prize is half the money they get from the door." "Yeah, that'll be at least $3 then," said Brian. $3.50 if you come." "Yeah, okay, fine. Perhaps you can donate it towards your rent." Brian was secretly itching to see Sally being savaged by the Blizzard culture vultures, though he affected reluctance as he accompanied Sally and McMurphy up to the event. "I just can't wait to share my work with a wider audience," yelped Sally as they trudged through the dirty snow. "I'm sure your wider audience can barely contain their excitement," said Brian. Blizzard's was bathed in dark red light and crammed with the usual plateau crowd, all complicated hairdos and casual poses. Sally zigzagged about, saying hello to those who knew her, most of whom had first seen her naked. At the back of the bar was a makeshift stage and a microphone. On one side, 6 stony-faced judges sat on tall bar stools. A manic girl with scarecrow hair leapt up and introduced herself as the compere for the evening. "Let's hear it for our first poet, or should I say poetess. The one, the only, the dreamy, the steamy, the very creamy Cheryl Cheesecake." Cheryl Cheesecake had a severe black bob, wire-rimmed spectacles and a pin-striped suit. "I'm a poet, not a poetess," she declared, before reading out her poem from the side of a shampoo bottle. It began with the lines, "For a notably softer, shinier and more manageable girl, wash 3 times a week, massage well to create a thick lather, rinse thoroughly, repeat as necessary, and towel dry. The result, your girl is noticeably more supple and will have less irritations." The audience clapped weakly. The judges held up 6 squares of cardboard marked with 2s as if she was an ice skater. A dishevelled man wearing dungarees appeared next. He turned out to be English. "Oh man alive, I'm just 35 and I haven't had sex for 6 months. If anyone's willing, I'll slip them a shilling for a flash of their tits and their cunt." Nervous laughter fluttered through the crowd. Then a man shouted, "I'm willing. You want to come and see me later? You don't sound like you've got tits." "No, but my girlfriend has." Everyone cheered as the English guy left the stage. The judges held up 3 6s and 3 4s. Next came a pop-eyed boy with blonde curls and a burgeoning beer belly. "I went down on her 6 times, he bellowed, jumping off the stage and sweeping through the smirking audience with a preacher's zeal. "Not once, not twice, but 6 times I went down on her. Was she grateful? Hell no. Montreal was empty, but it didn't matter. And I said to the Lord, 'Lord, why have you done this?'" "Yeah, Lord, why the fuck?" muttered Sally. The judges didn't agree with her and gave him 4 6s and 2 5s. A baby-faced French boy read a poem which mixed political commentary with ice hockey metaphors. The subject only became apparent when the compere said, "Only in Canada would you get a political commentary mixed with ice hockey metaphors." "Okay," said the compere. "Next up, we have the very delightful, the very insightful, the not at all frightful, Sally!" Sally leapt onto the stage and stood with her heavy-booted feet planted wide apart and her arms akimbo. This poem is called gripped by a frantic pervert. A few titters of suspense drifted from the crowd. Sally did not smile. Every night I am molested, gripped by a frantic pervert, offered no conversation, used for sexual gratification, drunkenly wrangled by a monkey. Oh, what a life. Of the entire crowd, Brian laughed the loudest. "Was that about you, Mac?" he asked. McMurphy looked faintly appalled. "No, I don't think so." When it came to the judging, Sally lost out to the religious cunnilingus freak. "No way," she said as they debriefed in the harem bar of Nance's cuisine afterwards. "There's no way that pop-eyed loser should have won. My poem was way better." "You should have gone down on the judges 6 times, said Brian, who was feeling quite warm to Sally in her defeat. "What should I have done?" "Gone down on them 6 times, Sally." Yay!